creation is like an extension of you. It's like what you're putting out into the world, and a little piece of you is in everything that you create. And so I realized that I had to process certain things in order to break through certain barriers. So going back
Mm-hmm.
to that song that I was writing, I realized that when I would write really like beautiful songs about things that were painful to me, it was always the things that I'd already processed. And this one song that took me so long was because I was subconsciously hiding myself from it. And I didn't realize it at that time. So
Mm-hmm.
when I really started to create at high volumes, it's sort of just like I had to take responsibility for my healing essentially. And the other thing is that my relationship with God played a huge role because the closer I got to God, the more I realized that we are literally a reflection of our creator. We are the created, but he made us as creative beings. So the more I acknowledge that and let him in, the more he would also help me and support me. And I felt like I wasn't um, in conflict with my purpose. I was in alignment with it. And once that
Mm-hmm.
happened, every single thing got so much easier.
Yeah. Wow. So, how do you kind of, you mentioned you're connecting to that creative energy, and part of that was about being able to take responsibility for something or having or process something that had happened. And I think that this connection to your creative energy and being able to produce stuff on demand is, like you said, that was for you as a composer, but for people who are in a content creation type of business, that's as well what you need to do every day. And we're not necessarily have had any training as any sort of performer or creator. You're just a person who's then wanting to help people, and suddenly now you've got to, I guess, perform every day. Maybe it's every day or whenever you're like, right, well, I need to do the content creation. Some people say they put a day in the calendar. It's like, well, how are you going to be able to perform on that day in order to be creative enough to get that content happening? So whether you're doing it daily, whether you're doing it once a week, once a month, it doesn't matter. There's sort of like this need. Your business needs you to be able to do that in the same way that you had that challenge at university to just compose on demand. So I think that this is the real key, and what's so important is, how do you sit down? You might not be feeling it today, but you're saying there is a way that you can sort of connect to your creative energy and get into alignment so that you can allow things to flow. Because if it doesn't flow, it's going to be really hard to produce something. It's going to take a long time and not be feeling great. Is there anything that you could share that would help? Like, I'm thinking there's a couple of ways I want to take this. One of them is, you mentioned you found it easier when it was something you'd already processed. So is there some tips around what, when you're looking at, well, I need to create some content, okay, well, maybe I'm going to look at topics that would be really easy to produce content on? Or is there some steps that someone can take in order to really quickly shift from being in the place of having not processed it to having processed it so that they can create content on it?
Mhm.
I'd let you take that very long question and decide which way you wanted to go first. So yeah.
Yeah. So in the realm of making sure that you are essentially making sure you're available on the day, because that's kind of what
Mm,
you're asking is like how do you become predictable in a sense where like
mm-hmm.
that when you sit down that things are going to happen.
Yes.
My biggest like overarching advice is just generally to have your to do like an audit of your values and your priorities and
Mm-hmm.
sort of make sure that you're really clear on your vision for your life and for your what you're creating. If you're a business owner, have a really clear idea of your business. If you're a songwriter, have a really clear idea of who you are and what you're trying to convey,
Mm.
because a lot of what gets muddy is when people start to think about things too externally. Like when you're a content creator, you're thinking about, oh, how people are can perceive this, and what's going to get the most views and everything. But if you don't
Hmm.
start from who you are, then you're not going to reach you or them, because
Yeah.
it starts with you. So the first step, I think, would be to audit your values and make sure that everything you're doing is in alignment with that, because otherwise, there's always going to be some sort of like friction. And it's
Mm.
for I'll say this example. I just thought of it was really funny. For people who are singers, when you learn how to breathe properly, and when you learn, if you're singing and volume's not coming out properly, or you're singing through your nose or whatever like that, you learn that there's essentially you have to create a straight line from your diaphragm, from your stomach, all the way up through your mouth. And when you're nasally, or when your volume isn't correct, it's because your breath is going from your diaphragm, and it's making stops along the way. So like, or you're breathing from your chest or something like that. So
Yeah.
I think about it in that way, where you have to be intentional about creating a straight line from who you are to the thing you create. And how people perceive that is another thing entirely, but it has to
Mm.
start from you.